You got your bucket list, your grocery list, your list of things to do. You got a list of all your wishes, that's a wish list, dude. You got your Amazon and Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy too. But I know a list that don't exist, and buddy, so do you. It's the Epstein list, it's a mystery list, but the twist is a myth of a list that we all just missed. Be an optimist, not a pessimist. If you wish to persist, it's probably best you forget that list. Now what were we talking about? I don't remember, but I can sleep a lot better at night. Yeah, life can just go along, knowing there's 10,000 hours of sunshine and flowers and nobody doing a damn thing wrong. Hear no, see no, damn Bongino, cash to tell. Well, I wouldn't want to be a sweating man with bulging eyes. Now tell me them fellas ain't compromised. Any implicated dude will tell you, anybody on the big list knows just how far the folks in charge will go to keep the status quo. So when the war bell rings, the song that they'll sing is a song that we well know. I-oh, so it's off to war I go. Well, they said they's gonna fix it, but now they're all complicit. They-oh, 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 they-oh. So it's off to war we go. Send the poor off to war, what else are we for? They-oh, 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 they-oh.
This is the most important election in American history. Democracy is on the line.
Great. Our next question is for $300,000. And here to ask it is the man himself.
I was Hillary Clinton's vice presidential running mate. At the time, you said it was the most important election in American history and that democracy was on the line. It's been less than 8 years. What's my name?
Hi, it is an honor.
You voted for me to be one heartbeat away from the Oval Office in an election more recent than the release of Zootopia. What's my name?
It's not my fault if he was a more memorable guy like Tim Walz.
This is very much a guy like Tim Walz. Let's see them side by side. Wow. Not only does he look exactly like Tim Walz, his name was also Tim.
Really? His name was Tim?
My name is still Tim. I exist. I'm a senator representing Virginia.
Of course you are. I'll give you 3 options for what his last name was. Tim Clinton, Tim Tim, or Tim Scott.
Oh, 2 of those don't sound real. I'll go with Tim Tim.
Audience, what's that name?
Tim Scott!
It's Tim Kaine.
Who is?
Me.
Oh. Well, God bless you.
All right, that was embarrassing, but you know what? Honestly, for me, it's not about the candidates. They come and go. What matters are the real Americans whose lives are at stake.
Great transition. In June of 2020, our country had a racial reckoning. You bravely tweeted the names of 12 victims of police violence with the hashtag #RememberTheirNames, preemptively scolding us for forgetting their names. Pal of mine, if you can remember one of those 12 names,
George Floyd.
Besides George Floyd, you'll walk out of here richer than the pharaohs. Give him a 10-minute clock.
Tamika Nolans?
Tamika, New Orleans? Jesus Christ, why not even guess?
Listen up, people. I am here and I want to help. This is our planet. Can I get a hurrah? What, am I invisible? Doesn't anybody care? Listen to me!
I want one with relish.
And I want mine with mustard.
I want you to stop this insanity. What do you think you're doing?
I'm trying to make a living here.
And the planet is dying. Listen, I can't get a pulse.
What the hell are you talking about?
There are 50,000 hot dog cows in Kansas alone.
So?
So, when those cows break wind, not only is it stinky, but it's cutting a hole in the ozone. Think of those hot dogs as 1 cubic foot of cow gas. Bon appetit. That's it. See? We can make a difference. Oh, thank you, you're here. I'm trying to teach these people how to embrace the planet, and they're not listening. It's insanity, I swear, it just makes me crazy. I wish somebody would just reach out and do something. I'm running out of breath.
Listen, I don't want any trouble. So why don't you just move along?
Does somebody have a camcorder? Don't touch me, I'm a vegetarian.
That's some funny stuff, I gotta say. How true is that, though? Especially the third one. You know, with Jim Carrey on Living Color. But it goes to show you, though. I mean, they were making fun of that. That's 35 years ago.
Long time.
And they've been saying the same thing ever since. The world's coming to an end. The world's coming to an end. The world's coming to an end. I mean, we hear it all the time. I mean, they're like the, what do you call those, Joe? The dispensationalists. In other words, you know, Christ is coming back in 8 years, 12 days, and 2 minutes. Okay, and then when Christ doesn't come back, they're like, but our math was off a little bit. He's coming back in 9 years. They do the same thing. It's all apocalyptic. The world's coming into an end. We know exactly what they're all about here at the front line with Joe and Joe. They're all about control. That's exactly what it is. Tonight is going to be a really great show. Welcome everybody to the front line. And tonight we're going to talk about this idea of digital currency. Okay. And to me, that's like crypto and Bitcoin. Joe, I'm not going to lie. I don't know much about it. I understand what it is conceptually. And that's what I have a problem with. It's like communism, Joe. I've said this a million times on the show. If you wrote it out for me on a piece of paper and it never was tried anywhere else in the world, I'd hand you back the paper after having read it, and I would say, no, thank you. I don't want it. Because conceptually, I say, I'm not in favor of any of this stuff. Same thing with digital currency. When you think about the power that the government's going to have beyond the power that it already has, the answer is no. The answer is no. And we're gonna have a clip on that from Marjorie Taylor Greene. We also, but we're gonna talk about like digital currency, but a lot of things in the economic world that pertain to just regular people, like people like us, people like everybody out there listening to us at the front line with Joe and Joe. So the economy, the debt, digital currency. Of course, you got to throw in the culture war. I don't know what they're smoking up there. Well, no, I know the people were right in Calgary. Because they were and we'll get into it. It involves the whole LMNOP community, okay? But again, judges acting up and thwarting the will of the people. We're going to get into that too, with the story coming out of Calgary. So, how are you, Joe Resinello?
Oh, good. Same craziness. We're a lot of the clips tonight coming from the Turning Point conference that just passed in Tampa. I thought it was really good. I thought particularly Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith, a lot of the clips we're going to talk about come from there. I'll be honest, it's interesting, but what's his face? Who's the dude from Turning Point? I could see his
Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk. It seems to me that he's at odds with Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith on a lot of issues. And I'll be truthful with you. I don't know if they'll be invited back. My 2 cents. Charlie Kirk seems to me more of a company man type of thing. See no evil. He said that he's not going to talk about Epstein anymore.
Right.
It seems like he was rejecting just by his body, reactions to Tucker and to Dave. He was clearly uncomfortable when Dave would talk about, Israel, when Tucker was talking about the economy as it's viewed from a common man's perspective. And to be truthful with you, it kind of turned me off a little bit on Charlie Kirk with regard to his reactions, because the truth is the truth. We shouldn't be tied to parties or people, because then, to be honest with you, you don't represent the people. You represent the power. That's not what it's about. If we want to move the country in a positive direction, we have to look past that. We have to look to process. We have to fix the machine. And to be honest with you, being married or wed to a particular candidate and deciding to close your eyes to something that's wrong because you're wed to that candidate, to be honest with you, that's not the guy that I want to really follow.
Well,
That's just
listen,
me.
I'm going to tell you right now, people that are dismissing America First or the America Party that Elon Musk is talking about, you dismiss that idea at your own peril. Joe, there's a lot of MAGA that's pissed off. And Donald Trump, quite frankly, his response was, if you're why are you still talking about Epstein? Why are you still talking about Epstein? Because you told us to. It's like the drill sergeant in Forrest Gump. Why'd you put the rifle together so quickly, Gump? Because you told me to, drill sergeant. Why was I demanding the release of the Epstein list? Because you told me you were going to release it, Mr. President. Don't tell me now that I'm stupid or that I need to shut up. And you're right. Let's be fair about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is in the tank for Israel. Israel could do no wrong. That's a product of his evangelicalism.
Yeah, no question. No
He
question.
thinks that Israel in the Middle
No,
East
I know.
is the Israel of the New Testament or the Old
I
Testament.
know.
That's half of the MAGA movement. Let's say agrees with him on that. Epstein list. You're going to tell me, Joe, he didn't get a call on the bat phone? In other words, Charlie, you're going to have to start telling your audience to dismiss it. Tucker Carlson's not towing that line. Dave Smith's not towing that line, either in regard to the Epstein list or let's just call it the Epstein tragedy, or to Israel. They're not towing that line. So Tucker is not going to be invited to the presidential cocktail party. Dave Smith is not going to be invited to the presidential cocktail party, but Charlie Kirk will. Quick wrench I'm going to throw in there about Charlie Kirk and why we all have to pray for him. You remember a couple of months ago, he got into a little bit of a row with Michael Knowles.
Yeah, I saw.
Because Mike. So for our audience, Michael Knowles said to a gentleman who had said to him, the gentleman had told Michael Knowles, they were on a stage, him and Charlie Kirk. Gentleman told Michael Knowles, I recently converted to the Catholic Church. What do you suggest I do now? And Knowles said, I suggest that you can bring others to the Catholic Church. And Charlie Kirk kind of like, it was a little, he was evangelical about it. And he turned around and he says, well, I would just say, just bring people to Christ. And Michael Knowles, who's awesome, turned around and said, what's the difference? Yes, you bring people to the church, you bring people to Christ. This week, Charlie Kirk put out a short video, basically saying that evangelicals under-venerate the Blessed Virgin Mary.
I saw it. It was nice.
And I thought it was more. I agree with you. It was nice. It was good for him to throw that to Catholics, but moreover, it was good for him to acknowledge, because he actually said, "You want the antidote to toxic femininity? Why don't you look to Mary?" I was impressed. I'm going to be honest with you.
No,
because a lot of evangelicals don't want to hear that.
No, that's true. I mean, the problem with the evangelical set is they don't understand the efficacy of the sacraments. You see, that's the crux of the church. I mean, amongst many things, and they're missing out on that. They just don't comprehend that, how we need sacramental grace. I mean, I don't want to get into a theological diatribe, but that's the sad reality of a person like Charlie Kirk, who's a Bible-believing Christian. I like him, and I shouldn't just dismiss him. I mean, while I think he showed himself a little bit more of a company man that I would like, I mean, he still says a lot of good things. He still does a lot of good things. With that said, that's what's missing there, and frankly, that's where we just have to pray for him and others like him.
And I'm with you. It's just, but I do think that I'm with you. I think his problem is, number one, a little bit too much ideology and not willing to go against the person, even in a respectful. I think we're respectfully critical towards Trump. I'd vote for him again if the election were held today. I'd vote for Trump again. I'm not going to deny
Yeah,
that.
so would I. I mean, the problem is it's constantly, and this is something when we had what's it called, the gentleman who ran under the Solidarity Party. I can't think of his name.
Peter Sonsky.
He came on the show, and he's a little bit older than us, and he said basically, it's voting for the lesser of two evils. That's what it is. I mean, like, I don't know if I'll ever in my lifetime, there'll never be a perfect candidate. And that's sad. I do think, though, that Trump is trying to a degree to push the envelope, to shake things up more so than, say, George Bush or Barack Obama, who promised all this change. But at the same time, if you ask me, he's not shaking it enough for my tastes. That's what I voted for. I voted for an outsider to shake the tree. I actually want the tree torn down. I want to get back. Yeah. I really do. I think that we have to get back to basics, the Constitution, basics. And the machine runs the machine. And it's proven itself to be that way. And while I think Trump has shaken it to a point when it came to the bill, when it came to Epstein's list, he showed that, listen, I'm not going to destroy the machine. And frankly, that's what I voted for. I mean, that's going to be honest with you. And that's what I'm looking for in a candidate, because it doesn't work. And we're going to talk about this, particularly with the Tucker clip, talking about the economy. The country, this is reality, people. The country is no longer the country where you could come here and basically buy a house, send all your kids to school. That's not happening. That's not happening.
You're right.
And that is a fact. This is not like under Joe Biden, look at the jump in housing prices due to inflation. It's like $130,000.
Right.
Homes. Now, I'll be truthful with you. That benefits me, but what about my kids?
Right.
What about my kids? I got to worry about my kids. That's why I do this show. That's why I'm concerned. You have kids too, those who are listening. You should be concerned as well. That's not going to come down. Notice gas prices didn't come down since Trump was elected. They jumped. I'm just using certain examples. In a lot of cases, food prices didn't go down. We did damage to the economy. We print money, and that devalues the dollar. Our bonds got devalued. We're now BBB. And to be truthful with you, that is going to continue the more debt we take on.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. So let's jump into it here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, wherever you're watching the video, please like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. So let's get into it.
Like, what is that? Like, at some point, the basic economics really matter. And they matter because, not that it's bad that rich people are getting richer, it's bad that everyone else is getting poorer. And it's especially bad the young people can't afford homes. Let me just put a very precise point on this. If you want a measure of how your economy is doing, I personally favor eliminating GDP as a measure. I don't even know what that is. It's clearly not relevant. They tell me Japan has a stagnant GDP. Have you been to Tokyo? It's the single most radicalizing experience you'll ever have because it's just so nice. You lost the war? Really? Can we lose a war and wind up like this? GDP. No. I don't know what even that is. The total economic activity. Oh, no. My measure is really simple. I got a bunch of kids. Can they afford houses with full-time jobs at like 27, 28? And the answer is no way. And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt. And I just think that's a total disaster. That's a complete disaster. Why? Two reasons. One, if people don't own things, they don't feel ownership of the country they're in. And the country gets super volatile because people feel like they've got nothing to lose. When you have a lawn, trust me, you're thinking long term. Second, it's really hard to have a family without a house. It is. It's like super fun to live in an apartment if, there's like a bar downstairs, you're in a cool neighborhood. I'm in East Village. It's so cool. Try to have 3 kids. You're not going to have 3 kids there. You can't. Nobody wants to raise their kids in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to raise their kids in an apartment. People do it because they have to. Nobody wants to. People want a little house, not some McMansion, just a little normal house. That is the actual American dream. And that is what is totally unattainable for young people. And so the only young people in general that you will ever meet who have houses are young people whose parents help them. And God bless their parents. That's a perfectly great thing to do for your kids. But most people's parents can't afford to do that because they're already in debt from their pointless college degree. So that is a national emergency. And I know that there are certain cable channels that are spending all this time talking about, oh, they're about to elect a socialist in New York City, which obviously I'm opposed to it. He's not even a real socialist. He's like a trainee vax, rich kid liberal guy. Mom Donnie. He's a fake leftist, but whatever. Why do you think that's happening? One of the reasons it's happening is because normal people with normal jobs no longer believe they can win in this system, and that all the money is going to the worst people. And no one.
All the money is going to the worst people. Now that clip goes on. I would encourage everybody to go and watch the rest of that clip from Tucker. I want to focus on something. There's a few things to unpack there. He mentioned Japan. I remember, Joe, back in another life when I was a stockbroker. Many out there at the front line with Joe and Joe know that I used to be a stockbroker, and I remember it was constant that I used to hear that on CNBC and all the media outlets. So Japan has had no economic growth. Japan has had no economic growth. Something I have a sneaking suspicion that Tucker Carlson is watching the front line with Joe and Joe, because we've been saying for a long time, GDP and economic growth, simply for the sake of economic growth, is an idol that needs to be torn down. We've said that on this show. That is not a measure of the health of your economy. Japan had no economic growth. What does Japan do differently than us? They don't idolize growth. What they're concerned about is the well-being of their people, meaning wages are higher, meaning they're more productive than we are. Okay, we simply look and we give these corporations. How many times have we said, Joe, I'm supposed to be thrilled that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at an all-time high. In the meantime, eggs cost $8 a dozen. But they will try to convince me that we have the strongest economy in the world. And this is not a left, even though the left uses this statement, they mean it in a different way. We say it in a proper way. If the economy is not serving the people, then you don't have a real economy. A real economy is one that serves the people. Meaning, he mentioned the house, and then I'm going to throw it over to you. My father worked at Consolidated Freightways years ago. He got hired in 1964, making $2.50 an hour, Joe. That was $100 a week on straight time. And by 1972, he was able to buy a $19,000 house in Newark, New Jersey. He was able, while raising us, to save enough money to put a down payment, let's say $2,000, $3,000 on a $19,000 house, okay, and then make the mortgage payments. His mortgage payment was $234 a month back then. My point is, though, he made enough money to support us, all right, and a family of 5, my mother and the 3, me, my brother, my sister. He made enough money to support us and be able to buy a house in Newark, New Jersey, which was, I don't care what anybody says, a great place to live back then. So my point is, Tucker's spot on. What say you?
Okay, let's break down the stock market. The top 10% of America own 88% of the equities bought and sold on the stock market. The next 40% own 12% of the equities. We're talking about mostly in people's 401k. The bottom 50% are in debt, which means they don't own homes. They have credit card debt. They lease their cars. They even probably have college debt. Some of those people are one busted tire away from going broke. $500. They can't even come up with it.
Right.
That is 50% of America. We are $37 trillion in debt. We're going to talk about that next. So the stock market is not an honest measure of the economy. And what Tucker is talking about is a common sense measure. You go to college, you have a 3.0, you studied accounting, you got a job, I'm making this up, in New Jersey. You have your college girlfriend, you want to get married, you're making $60,000 right out of college. You can't buy a house. And you're educated. And you're far from stupid. Let's look at America over the last 100 years in my family. I will just break it down from you in a timeline. My grandfather came here at 16. He didn't speak English, came from Italy. He worked in a factory in Newark. He never owned a home, but he rented and raised 3 kids, worked 6 days a week in that factory. My grandmother never worked. You can't do that now.
Nope.
Let's fast forward to my father. My father left Newark, bought a house in the suburbs. He worked as a barber, and my mother had to work. She worked as a school secretary. They owned a home. They had 2 kids. They sent 2 kids to college. Now, to own a home, not only do 2 people have to work, they have to be professional. You're not going to be that family, like I'm the barber, you're the secretary, and think you're going to buy a home. Impossible.
Right.
Impossible. So that's the 100-year trajectory. What's the next generation going to do? And that's exactly what Tucker Carlson is talking about. What was the American dream is no longer the American dream. College is unaffordable. You're going to go into $300,000 worth of debt to get a $60,000 a year job.
Right.
Does that work for a regular person? Now, if your father's a surgeon and he's paying out of pocket that $300K, okay, you're on your way. But if your father works for UPS, it's frankly a waste of money. And why is that? They say, oh, college is so affordable. I'm going to tell you the Ponzi scheme real quick, and then I'm going to pass it on to Joe. You could just take money out at will. The government gives you, it's a no reviewed loan. I want money to go to Villanova. They just give it to you. The college knows that. The government knows that. So what does the college do? Basic economics. Keep kicking up the price. Government gives to college. College gets rich, as in build things, everything else. Tuition goes up. They pass it on to you. And frankly, what does that do to the middle and the working class? It pushes you out. It pushes you out of the ability to possibly even consider going to that school.
Right.
And this is what America bought into. Our elites allowed that. If I know that, they know that. And by the way, Bill Clinton said you can't write off your college loan. You can't declare bankruptcy. So he chained you into it.
Right.
This is what our elites did to our country. And fast forward to now. What does that kid whose father is a barber and his wife is a secretary do? Do you think that he's going to go to a private school like I did? No way. No way. Do you think that kid's going to possibly own a house? Maybe if he crushes it. But if he's just like a regular person like Tucker Carlson's talking about, there's no way that's happening. And they permitted this. They permitted this with their policies, with printing money, with allowing, frankly, loans to get out of control with college debt. They permitted this. Yeah. Nobody goes to jail. Everyone passes the buck. The only loser's you.
No, and you're absolutely right. I remember, Joe, I have gotten into arguments with members of my family, my extended family, because they wouldn't listen. I've been saying this for years. Let's break this down real quick here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Let's talk about what you say the elites allowed it. I'm saying that the elites convinced people that this was the route to go. And I'm going to tell you why. All my life is I heard, got to get a driver's license. Got to get a driver's. Okay, what does that mean? Well, then you got to get a car. Okay, what does a car do? If you go out and even you get a moderate car, you're still going to have to finance it. Okay, what are you paying with finance it? Usurious interest. Then what do you got? Well, you got to go to college. Well, I don't know if I want to go. What do you mean you don't know if you want to go to college? You got to go to college. And then, like you said, Bill Clinton, Mr. I feel your pain, said, well, you can't declare bankruptcy. Well, what if I can't pay it back? I can't declare bankruptcy? It hurts me for 7 years, but I need debt relief. Can't do it, right? But you still got to go to college. You still got to take that money, but I didn't get a scholarship. It doesn't matter. We're going to give you the money. And then what are you doing? For the next 20, 30 years, you're going to continue to pay back
second
that
mortgage.
Debt. At what? At what? Usurious interest rates. Then what? You got to buy a house. You got to buy a house. Well, I can't afford it. No, you got to save your money. I don't have any money. No, you got to save your. They'll give you 0% down, 5% down, but you got to own a house. You got to go buy a house. And what does that do? Because that's the American dream that they want to ram down your throat. And what are you doing the whole time? And I hate to sound like a leftist, but in this particular case, it's true. You're just making rich bankers even richer. That's all you're paying money, all your interest and the cumulative interest that's being paid on all the crap that they tell us we have to buy. Leave aside the credit card debt. All right. If you want to throw that in, all you're doing is you by toiling for that $60 or $65 or $70,000 a year with your wife who's not making much more than that, if she's making as much as you. All right. All you're doing is making a bunch of fat asses more lazy than they already are, because all they do is sit back. Joe, we grew up with it. Okay, where do you think the Italian mob got the model for this? Okay, they knew if you took $100,000 and put it out on the street, if you were a Shylock, because that's what we called them, Shylocks. If you were a Shylock, you're getting 3% on that a week. You're making $3,000 a week for putting $100,000 on the, and you don't have to do anything other than collect it. What do you think the banks do? And this idea of the American dream, when you turn around and say, "I'm not buying your American dream." In fact, it has turned into the American nightmare. Just the college debt alone that you mentioned. Just the college debt alone, okay? You're talking to what the lowest end, if you go to 4 years and have to borrow money, the lowest end you're going to borrow is at least $100,000.
Oh, more than that. More than that.
No, I'm talking about I'm just saying, even if you just go to a moderately priced
Sure,
school,
I get it.
You know, so my point is, one of the things that we were hoping was that the narrative of this American dream was going to get shattered, okay? Okay, you got a car. Joe, I got a $500 Chevy Nova when I turned 17. I don't know about you. And then I got my Aunt Addie's Dodge Dart after that, and I ran that into the ground. I didn't get a car. You don't get a car that you're going to go into debt for, that you got to pay interest on. So my larger point is this, and we're going to play Dave Smith in a minute. My larger point is Tucker's exactly right. What we need in this country, okay, and where I'm going to finish up with the Tucker clip, we need economic stability, not economic growth simply for the sake of growth. We need economic stability. That means people need to make more money. That's what that means. That means that corporations have to start forking over more money. And there's a variety of ways that we could do that. That's a conversation for another day. Deporting people is probably the first on the list. Getting women who don't want to be in the workforce out of the workforce, that's another one. You need to make corporations compete for labor. Right now, they're not competing for labor, so they just throw you crumbs and tell you, now do what I tell you to do or I'll fire you. And you're so fearful because you need that job, you do whatever they tell you to do. Joe, I go through it every single day. Over to you.
It doesn't work for regular people. People have to get that through their head. And I'm going to be truthful with you. Like I said, I just broke it down 3 generations. 3 generations, regular people. And I'll be honest with you, I am a professional. I'm not going to lie to you. But I think about, and I'm going to be 55 next week. I mean, I've had a very good life. I fear for my kids. The next generation of Americans are not going to have the life that I had. That is a fact. And I am not the only person saying this. And here's another thing. I'm far from stupid. Like, this is another thing. Let's put it this way. There's a lot of people who do not have the benefits that I have been given. A lot, which means they're out of luck. That means you're out of luck. And somehow people just don't think. They just don't see it, or they don't want to see it, and they bury their head in the sand. It's, Joe, I'll be truthful to you. It boggles my mind. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my life.
No, you're absolutely right. And I honestly thought, getting back to politics for a second, we were voting for someone who was going to come in and create an earthquake. And we haven't even gotten a tremor. Okay. We're supposed to create a tsunami. It's basically like one of those little waves that you see on the Gulf of America, you know, like one of those little waves on the Gulf that hit the beach. No tsunami there. But here's Dave Smith.
The real problem for America, if you want to even talk about like the Islam taking over America or taking over Europe, well, how did that happen? That happened because we completely destabilized the region, fighting war after war after war that did nothing but slaughter hundreds of thousands of people. And then our Western governments had the most insane open immigration policy that was basically suicidal. We're doing this to ourselves. We're $37 trillion in debt, and we're looking for another enemy to go fight. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, we've spent $20 trillion on empire and wars. And you know what? We can't tax enough money to pay for it. We can't borrow enough money to pay for it. So what do? We print the money. And now you guys are coming out into the world and you're wondering why you're 6 figures in debt from college and you're getting a job at DoorDash and the average house goes for 800 grand because we've destroyed the currency chasing these monsters that were never any threat to our country.
So
look, I think if you guys are being honest with yourselves, and I do think we should really think about the threats that we really do face here at home, and I'm talking about the Democrats coming back into power. Forget all these made-up threats about other countries that really can't mess with us at all. I don't know if you guys have noticed, and you could say it's a very online debate all you want to. This hasn't been a good month for Donald Trump. His base is really kind of turning on each other, and these are major issues that are dividing his coalition. And this is J.D. Vance winning in a few years is not a given. You know, like the Democrats are going to come back and offer someone. And if we want to have a chance to keep progress going and to get our country in a better place, what we have to do is reject empire and return to being a republic that we were supposed to be. The United States of America was never supposed to be an empire. We were supposed to be a republic, a constitutional republic, a city on a hill that the world could learn from our example because we do liberty so much better than anybody else does. And we've gotten so far away from that over the years. And like I mentioned at the beginning, look, this is the big point. We're going broke. We can't afford to do this anymore. It shouldn't even be a question of whether we should be giving Israel money or whether we should be giving Ukraine money, as Donald Trump's also decided to do this year. We don't have it. This is like me taking out money on a credit card to lend to my friends so I can act like I'm the big shot who's lending them money. We are destroying our own young people. You, not me. I'm not a young person. I'm fine. I'm in my 40s and I make good money. Your whole generation is getting screwed over by this because we have to devalue our currency in order to keep up with the demands for this spending that we cannot afford. And so the answer is that we need to pull back. We need to focus on America. That's what America First is supposed to be about. Sound money, fiscal sanity, and true liberty, true free market capitalism. Not a government that spends $7 trillion a year and a crazy casino system on Wall Street with these incredibly low interest rates where people are making tens of millions of dollars off just, speculating on nonsense. And this is it's the warfare state that drives it. Look, guys, we have spent $20 trillion since the collapse of the Soviet Union. The war in Iraq and Afghanistan are over, and we're looking at our biggest defense budget ever. This is madness, and it will be the death of our country. No Islam.
I could, he's just so spot on. One of the things I want to focus on, I know a lot of people that have watched the front line with Joe and Joe, they expect us to be rah-rah Trump, but Joe and I are going to keep it real and be very, very critical when need be. This has not been a good month for Donald Trump. I say that from my own personal point of view, is that he's going in the wrong direction. One has to ask oneself why he's backing off on all the things. He talked about everything in there that Dave Smith was talking about. He talked about pulling back on the military. He is giving weapons to the Ukraine. We are supporting Israel. We did drop bombs on Iran. He's doing nothing to reduce the debt and the spending that's going on in Washington.
He's adding to it. $10 trillion in 5 years.
So then where are we going? Listen, people, when they get fed up, they look for somebody else. So the Democrats will package somebody, hopefully not as dumb as a stump like Kamala Harris, okay? Or hopefully it is somebody dumb as a stump so that they'll lose. But you put somebody up there who could talk a good game, who talks out of both sides of his mouth. I just described Gavin Newsom, okay? He could get elected. He could get elected because I'll tell you what, Joe, if it's all coming to an end, then I'm going to stay the F home next election day. And I'm not going to get duped again by the Republicans. I thought I was not. You said a lesser of two evils. I honestly said, and I said it on this show at the front line with Joe and Joe, I thought my vote for Trump was a positive for a change. I thought I was voting for actually a good candidate, not just better than her, okay? Somebody that was good and was going to go, like you said, go in there and tear down that tree, okay? Go in there and create an earthquake, a tsunami. The deep state won't know what hit him. Joe, last time I checked, Donald Trump is the New York Jets. He's winless. He's winless. He's got a losing record. And you know who's winning? The deep state.
Oh, I'm going to steal Dave Smith's phrase. We have to do republic versus empire. I like it because empire works for the oligarchs. That's why every president goes with corporatism. Two things are consistent with every president, no matter who it is, Republican or Democrat. Corporatism, i.e. the lobbies which fuel both sides of the parties, and the military-industrial complex, because it makes the oligarchs money. And that is the machine. Also, he talked about immigration. It lowers the wages of people in this country, working people, low-income people. There's tons of people like that across America. It lowers their wages. It helps corporations. And frankly, our food, the agriculture industry, relies on slave labor. Donald Trump, he should just call it what it is. We're going to let those people pick those vegetables and fruit. Well, what is that, Donald? That's slave labor. That's what that is. And that's why they're allowed to come in. They're also allowed to come in because they become a voting class. They become a welfare state, and they empower the oligarchs to keep all the power and give the average man in the country nothing. You don't believe me? Look at any inner city in America. Newark, New Jersey burned to the ground in 1968. It's the same. Four generations have come and gone. Functioning illiterate people. The dropout rate's off the charts.
Right.
And they keep voting for the very people that keep them frankly, in bondage. Yep. That is the system. And people, the problem is, first of all, too many people believe in it and they don't see it for what it is, because that's what it is. And secondly, that is why we voted for Donald Trump. Many people do see it to a degree. We don't even see a fraction of what's going on. If we did, we'd probably get sick. And Donald Trump has taken it to a degree. He throws people carrots there and now, but at the end of the day, the system doesn't work for us anymore. The Congress is completely impotent. It's pure theater. So is the Senate. It is pure theater run fully by corporate America and large donors and super PACs.
They got to be. Please. They got to be all competing with each other to try to find out who's got more power over the United States House and Senate, whether it be the big agri, big pharma, Israel, whoever it might be. They're all competing with you to say, hey, I got more control over that guy than you do. I got more control over that senator than you do. And now we're finding out somehow, some way they have control over Donald Trump. Because nobody's going to convince me. I'm sorry. Donald Trump could call me stupid all he wants. All he's going to do is alienate me. And Joe, I'm going to dare say I'm not the only guy in America who's talking like this, nor are you. Okay?
Oh.
I'm a disaffected MAGA person.
Joe, here's another thing. You're an educated person. You see, this is what I'm trying to communicate to people. You have a college degree. You're a professional. So am I. Think about the person, frankly, that isn't educated. Think about the person who, say, I'm going to make it up, lives in the middle of Iowa. Like no employment opportunities. There's tons of people like that. That's right. Tons of people like that. You're educated. So am I. And to be honest with you, this is as Dave Smith's a smart guy. He's calling it like it is. The threat to America is our debt. Get that through your head, people. That is the threat to America. Now, Donald Trump added to the debt, but so did Clinton, so did Bush, so did Obama. We can go all the way back. They have given the future away, and they continue to kick the can down the line. The debt is what sunk the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union collapsed not by the bullet, by economic instability. That's why it collapsed. That is what will happen here eventually. And when it does, it is going to be insane. It will make the Great Depression look like a frigging downturn. It'll make the Great Depression look like a small pay cut while you're keeping your job. It will be insane. It's happened in other countries, and it will happen here. And that's going to be the Great Reset. Until that happens, it will be the same nonsense, because power is never given. It's taken. And Donald Trump took it to a degree, and he hasn't taken it far enough. And I took him, and that's why I voted for him. I wanted him to take it all the way, and we're not getting it.
And the thing is, too, that's why I feel so disheartened, because we're not, you know, and I know everybody who's listening to us, by the way, Antonella, God bless you. Antonella dropped in $28 and contributed to the success of the Frontline with Joe and Joe. And you all do just by being here. So thank you all. And thank you particularly, Antonella. God bless you. That's why I feel none of these things, Joe, are political issues. None of it. It's all the spiritual battle that we've always talked about. It's the cultural battle. It's the idea that rather than being humble, okay, in other words, to say, well, I just want to live my life. I have a wife. I have a son. You have a wife. You have 5 kids. I just want to live my life. I want to have a certain level of prosperity. Of course, I don't want to suffer. Nobody wants to suffer. Pain and suffering will come in your life. I don't care how rich you are. But on the economic level, I really don't want to suffer. I just want to have a comfortable life, provide for my kids, for my son, and provide for my wife, and do what I need to do. And I say, and I don't seek to control you. Okay, I don't want more so you could have less. That's one side of it. The other side says, no, I'm going to go out through my will to power. They've read their Nietzsche, boy, trust me. Okay. I'm going to go out through my will to power. I want what everybody else has, and I'll do whatever I can to accumulate all that wealth as much as I can to myself and my friends, to my buddies. And that's the pride. It's pride and humility. It's a spiritual battle. All of these are moral. Joe, our debt, and you know this, excuse me, our debt is not a political issue. Our debt is a moral issue. When you drive your own grandkids, well, not their grandkids because their grandkids are going to be rich. When you drive other people's kids and grandkids into poverty because you're going to be responsible for the destruction of this country, the economic collapse of this country, hell is where you're going, pal. I just want you to know that. Hell is where you're going, unless you repent. But that's where you're going because you've decided you're going to enslave other people, okay, for your own benefit. That's what the bankers do. That's what the politicians do. That's what they all do. Why is it that they always say we're going after the rich people? No, you're not. The list of taxes, Joe, that the middle class pays, all the different taxes as long as my arm, that we get all regressive taxes, gas tax. You could go sin taxes on cigarettes and booze that go to the federal government. They charge higher for those things, okay, because they know who's smoking, who's drinking. We are. Middle class, working class people are. We're the one buying the cigarettes, buying the booze, buying a bottle of wine at the store. They kill us. And just like the good globalist Marxists that they are, then they want to put their boot even further on our face. And my anger here is at Donald Trump because he said he was going to do something about it. And he's done nothing as far as I'm concerned. Nothing on that front. He hasn't even begun. You know, Joe, the old saying, say you can't just swim the English Channel. Got to dip your toe in the water first. He hasn't even dipped his toe in the water. If anything, he's shown himself to be establishment, particularly on the budget. And that's budget, what makes me sick.
Absolutely. They didn't even adopt all of the fraud that they basically uncovered. That is negligence. If you ask me, any corporation, if I have a chief auditor that reports to me and I'm the CEO and he tells me that I have found fraud and here's the number, and then I go to my CFO and he does not build in the savings from that fraud or at least correct it, everyone's fired. That's right. Real life. Everyone is fired. The auditor's fired, the CFO fired. You're gone.
Right.
That's life. And that did not happen. That should tell you something, people. And by the way, you know, I could hear the anti-Trump people. Well, that's just Donald Trump. No, that's Barack Obama. That's Joe Biden. That's Bill Clinton. That's George Bush. That's Jimmy Carter. That's Ronald Reagan. That's all of them.
Right.
The system has to be fixed. It no longer works for regular people. Get it through your head. That means you.
That's right. And here's where it gets even scarier, because now, aside from the banks that like rob you in the form of usurious interest, okay, one of the things that has to happen in this country, again, Donald Trump floats it but doesn't do anything about it. He said he wanted to have a cap on interest rates that credit cards could charge. You didn't do shit about it. Sorry, Don. Sorry about my language, Joe, but he's got me aggravated. You didn't do anything about it. You threw it out there. You got everybody excited, okay, that we're going to have a cap on interest on credit cards, 10%. You didn't do anything about it. Why? Because your boys in the Republican Party told you, a lot of our friends are bankers, Don, Mr. President, so I don't think you could do that. But if it could get any worse, it's when they're actually going to be able to control the amount of money that you get.
Inform you about a vote that I'm very concerned about, the Genius Act, that the Senate passed. President Trump is demanding we pass it in the House. The Genius Act has a backdoor capability into a central bank digital currency, and they are they're having a second vote on the ban on central bank digital currency. That should be included in the Genius Act. That should be a part of the Genius Act. It should not be separate. And my concern, Steve, is the Genius Act will pass, and this opens the door for a central bank digital currency. So there's things happening extremely fast, and these are things that regular Americans just are largely against. We don't want a central bank digital currency. We don't want a future government or administration that can turn our bank account on and off and take our tax money without our agreement. Just take it straight out of our bank account. And this is we want to support a future with digital currency, stable coin, crypto. I know there's a lot of people that want that stuff, but this has to be done the right way. And I'm very concerned about this bill and the fact that we're lacking a ban on CBDC.
Joe, I just have to throw it over to you because, like I said, if just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, now they want to actually be able to go, the little money, the crumb that they throw you, okay, for because you go out and work and you're living the American dream, the crumb that they throw you, now they want to take that away from you too. Go directly into your bank account. They're going to impose a social credit system using central bank digital currency, the same way that China has a social credit system. This way, if Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello decide to go on a podcast that the government doesn't like, if all the people out there that are watching us dare to go on that show, the government's going to see it all. And guess what? Didn't Trudeau do this in Canada, Joe?
Well, that's exactly what people aren't paying attention. Trudeau froze bank accounts. He even froze the bank accounts of people who basically chipped in to help the truckers pay their bills. Your bank account got frozen too. So if there was a GoFundMe for Bob Smith, who's the truck driver down the street, who basically can't eat because he protested something that was frankly absurd, they froze your bank account too. And digital currency is when it's over. That's full North Korea. That's when the lights go out. That's when the podcasts end. That's when free speech ends. That's when you do what you're told because you have to. Because if you don't, you can't eat. You'll literally, all it is pressing a button. You don't have access to your money. And the 1-800 number doesn't work. You're done. You have no money. Right. Zero. How much money? Ask people who are listening to this. How much money do you have in your house? I have no money in my house. All my money is in the bank. When I need money, I go to the money machine. When I have to send a check, I do it on the computer. I have no money in my house. It's a simple. Digital currency is when it's over. That is about control. It has nothing to do with, it's going to be great. We don't have to carry cash. I don't have to carry my credit card. I could just press a button and just pay. Blah, 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 blah. No, cash is king. Cash is freedom. It's control. And even I don't know about to be honest with you, I didn't read the bill that she's talking about, but anything, she's not the only one talking about it. Any bill that even gives a glimmer of hope gives the smallest option for the government to take advantage and basically institute a digital currency and sell it to you, and they'll pass it at 4 o'clock on a Friday, as they do with all the crap that they shove down your throat. It's about control. You're finished. It's over. It's over. How many people work for cash? How many people work, frankly, and I have no problem with it because our government takes their money and gives it to Bolivia for frigging trans education for 4-year-olds. How many people work off the books? How many people get paid cash? That's all done. That's over. It's about control. And people are asleep at the wheel. They don't even know what's going on. They listen to the crap that's told to them on ABC News. When I see that news, if I walk into a store or buy a pizza and that news is on, I'll be honest with you, I could vomit. It's just all propaganda, and people eat it up.
No, they do eat it up, and people are gonna fall for this, Joe. People are gonna fall for this. You know, I said this before, just to get religious for a second. I always wondered what it meant in the book of Revelation when it talked about the mark of the beast and nothing's to be bought or sold except through him. And when you hear things like this, you say to yourself, "Wow, that sounds awfully eerie." Somebody's actually going to monitor the things I buy, monitor what's in my bank account, monitor my withdrawals if I'm actually even able to make one. Monitor what I say, so that miraculously the next day when I wake up after having said it, my bank account's 20% lighter than it was because the government confiscated my money or my credits, my digital currency credits, so I don't have as much. And like you said, then I can't eat. Ultimately, I think underlying this is they want revolution. They don't see, with Donald Trump, at least ostensibly, what we thought was we were going to get a revolution in the culture and amongst the American people across the political aisle, saying we don't want the things that we're talking about tonight. I don't want the debt. I don't want digital currency. I want to be able to buy a home. I don't want usurious interest rates, all these different things, okay? They know, they saw that, and obviously it didn't work, or at least at this point it hasn't worked with Donald Trump. Again, these are Marxists, globalist Marxists. What they want, Joe, the next step is they do these things because they want violence. And I'm going to be honest, I can't blame people for getting violent if the government turns around and confiscates or freezes their bank account, if they got kids at home. How are you going to prevent people, men, from gathering together and doing something that you really don't want to see them do? And I don't want to see them do that. I don't want to see violence. But these people, how are they going to amass more control to themselves? Just the same way they did in Canada with those truckers, okay? Start really ramping up the power that the federal government, or in this case, the central government in Canada had. And one of the consequences was freezing their bank accounts. And the other was, you know better than I do. They did a whole host of things. He declared a national emergency or invoked the Emergency Act.
And then the Supreme Court of Canada said that it was illegal. And Justin Trudeau, this is after the fact that he's basically overstepped his bounds. He was like, oh, well, no recourse. What happened to the truckers? What happened? What happened to their families? They had to eat. What happened to their mortgages? What happened to their bills? Nothing. Zero. It should, you see, these are things that people should basically connect dots on. It should tell you who really has the power and who doesn't. Because to be honest with you, it just shows that they just change the goalpost. They just move it back. They move it up. They suit themselves to suit, like I said, we watched, and not to get into like crazy, like election conspiracy conversation. They changed how we vote. COVID has come and gone. As a result, 70% of America now vote by mail, a practice that the country of France recently gave up because they said that it was rife with fraud. It went from 30% to 70%. Notice it did not go back.
Right.
Again, people just accept this and they move on and they just accept it. And to be honest with you, Joe, it's just sad.
No,
it's sad. It really is. Like I say this to my wife all the time. I wish I have not. Ignorance is bliss. I wish, like, I can't unsee what I have seen in the last 10 years. I can't unsee it. And I'll be truthful with you. I've said this publicly on our radio show. I mean, on the radio. I don't have faith in our government anymore. I don't. None.
No.
I don't have faith in the institution anymore. It doesn't work. And here's the thing, I'll say it again. I am not indigent. I'm not rich. But like I said, I'm a professional. I pity people in this country. And frankly, I feel sorry for my kids because they're not going to have the life that I had.
Not if it continues down this path. And that's why we keep saying here at the front line with Joe and Joe, this movement, call it America First, call it MAGA, call it whatever you want. It's got to transcend Donald Trump. Obviously, there's something wrong with Donald Trump. Obviously, there's something wrong with him because you can't just go, you can't do a complete 180. You can't just do a U-turn the way he did, particularly on the big beautiful bill, but on Epstein and all of it. Now he's calling his own supporters stupid because we're talking about Epstein. I'm only talking about it. I didn't forget about it because you didn't let us forget about it. You said you were going to do something about it. Why aren't there indictments against Adam Schiff and the January 6th committee? We all know that they lied and they committed criminal acts. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Bongino is either about to leave or he's already left. I haven't watched the news on it.
They destroyed Bongino. He was making millions of dollars a year. You think he can go back and have that podcast after this?
One way he can. One way he can. He goes back on his podcast and he goes and tells the truth.
Well, he has to quit, but he's done. Like, in all honesty, if he does not quit, he's done. He's over. Nobody's
gonna watch him because he will have lost all credibility. How am I supposed to listen to him saying he's supporting Donald Trump? Okay, you're supporting Donald Trump, Dan, but I thought you were supporting me first and foremost as your fellow American. Donald Trump was just supposed to be the guy that goes out there and actually goes and makes it happen. Well, he ain't making it happen. And you always talk about 40-yard line, the 40-yard line. Donald Trump is on his own 40. Maybe he ran for 3 yards on the first down. If you consider these last few months, his first down play, maybe he ran for 3 yards. Well, Donald, you still haven't gotten a first down. You're not even close, as a matter of fact. You got 2nd and 7, all right? And you're not even going to the other side. You're not even crossing the 50-yard line. You're not doing anything that you said you were going to do. Tariffs aside, okay? But even the tariffs, where's my benefit from the tariffs? Again, another lie. Because I was supposed to get a tax cut, so were you, because the tariffs were going to offset that. So that hasn't happened either. But speaking of Canada, okay, and this is part of the what do they call it, Joe? The warfare that's going on because central to their implementing what they want and fighting against Donald Trump as judges. Obviously, it's the same in Canada. Before we go to the clip, though, I want to thank Robert. Robert, God bless you. Thank you, brother. Robert contributed $20 at the front line with Joe and Joe. Help us to be successful, and all of you do just by simply coming on. Help us out more. Like, subscribe, and share. Share the video wherever you're watching it. Share it, share it, share it. Now, here's the thing. Here, watch this up in Canada, and let's talk about how they get away with this in terms of just judges.
Hello and thank you for joining us. We begin with breaking news tonight. An Alberta court has granted an injunction preventing the province from banning gender-affirming care for minors. Alicia Fieldberg joins us now. So, Alicia, what does this injunction mean?
Well, Tara, it blocks Bill 26, new Alberta legislation that would restrict access to gender-affirming hormone therapy for people under the age of 16. Now, the ban had not yet started and now legally can't, which means Alberta youth using puberty blockers and hormone therapy can continue. The court concluded that Bill 26 would cause irreparable harm to gender-diverse young people in Alberta. It added that barring medical care for gender-diverse young people would reinforce the discrimination and prejudice that they are already subjected to. The bill also prohibits sex reassignment surgery for minors, but bottom surgery isn't even allowed on minors in Canada. Top surgery is incredibly rare, and according to advocacy groups, no Alberta youth are even on the wait list. eGale Canada and Alberta's Skipping Stone Foundation, along with families of 5 gender-diverse Alberta youth, filed the case against the government. They say this is a victory for trans youth, but also for human rights.
You know, Jesus said that you have to love your enemy and pray for your enemy. And I have a very, very, very hard time I understand the teaching and I try to follow it, okay? Because we are Christian, we're Catholic. But I have a very hard time, Joe, when these people could get away with something like that. And the broadcast itself, aside from the substance, she's standing in front of, I don't even know what that flag is anymore. Started out as a rainbow flag. Now they just take everything. You might as well just have every color on there. Just it's an every color flag, okay? And a judge is thwarting the will of the people of Alberta because it's the Alberta legislature that wants to pass this legislation. A judge steps in as you can't do it because gender diverse. There's no such thing as gender diverse. I don't care what school you went to. You're not smart. You're not an intelligent person if you describe someone as gender diverse. But you see how they thwart the will of the people? And they do it at the expense of whom? And this is what I meant by not being able to pray for my enemies many times. I'm not praying for these people. In fact, I actively, and God forgive me, I actively sometimes in my heart, and I have to stop doing this. I don't care what happens to their soul. I don't. I care about the kids who are obviously mentally ill, probably because of some stupid parents. A lot of stupid parents out there, okay? The kid's mentally ill, has a disorder, looks in the mirror. If a girl's anorexic and she's 98 pounds and looks in the mirror and she sees a 158-pound woman, every rational person says that girl needs therapy. She needs help. We have to help her. Okay, she has a disorder. She's not seeing things properly. We don't do that with these people, and this is all being enabled. And now the people stand up and they vote through their legislature to stop this, and a judge comes in and says, you can't do that.
Well, that says it's not a democracy, and people should get that through their head. As many of our listeners know, we have a lot of people from Canada that listen to our show. Listen, Alberta is a conservative area of Canada. It's conservative. And frankly, you don't have to be conservative to be against that. Most Americans are against that. And I'm willing to bet most Canadians are against that. But Canada, as well as the woke left in America, it's not about people, it's about ideology. Mark Carney is all about ideology. That is the name of the game. He represents, frankly, the WEF. He represents the globalist. He does not represent the Canadian, the regular Canadian. He thinks he knows better than you. This is what this is this, plain and simple. You don't know what's good.
Right.
Even though you voted for it. I do. So I'm going to help you. That is how basically the cultural communist, the secular humanist, elitist thinks. You don't know what's good for you. I do. So therefore, I'm going to eliminate gas and oil. I know that makes you poor, but I know what's good for you. I know what's good for your kids.
Right.
And I know you might be Jewish, you might be Muslim, you might be evangelical. I know what's good for you. That's what is being communicated, and it should be rejected.
Well, it's not. The problem in the world right now, Joe, is it's not being rejected. Now, I happen to think that all elections all around the world are all rigged. I don't think humanity has fallen so far into depravity as a whole that people like Mark Carney, Macron in France, and Keir Starmer in England, I don't think human beings are that far gone that these people can actually look at their own people with a straight. Take the Muslims. Take the Muslim invasion of Europe. They're walking right in. They used to have to fight to try to get into Europe, and they lost, by the way, thanks to the Catholic Church, all right, and Catholic Europe. They lost, and they were beaten back. But the point is, now they just come walking right in. How does Keir Starmer look at an average English person, English man or woman, and say, well, this is good for us? Excuse me? They don't respect our laws. They don't want to be an Englishman or an English woman. They don't respect, obviously, we were ostensibly, as Joseph Pierce has told us on our show, England from the end of the Roman Empire up until Henry VIII, the gangster that he was, and his gangster daughter, Queen Elizabeth I, all right? Up until that point, England was a Catholic country. There was a Catholic patrimony in England, okay? And here you are 500 years later, after Anglicanism, all right, which is completely watered down religion in England, all right? Now they're just you get people like Keir Starmer who just look in the camera and say, no, this is good for us. No, giving power to Brussels and not really doing it ourselves, that's a good thing. European Union. Let's sing Kumbaya with the Italians and the French and the Germans. That's the world we live in. So I believe all elections are rigged. I believe them all. Nobody will ever do it, okay? But in each individual country, if the world actually values democracy, then there needs to be an international tribunal, an international committee set up to monitor elections worldwide. That'll never happen. To say if you run for a member of parliament in England, we're going to monitor that election. We're going to have people on the ground to make sure that votes are being cast out. In America, same thing. If you're running for councilman in Los Angeles, we're going to monitor that election. We're going to make sure every vote counts because we believe in democracy. They don't believe. My larger point, Joe, and I'll hand it to you for a final word. They don't believe in democracy. They believe in control, pure and simple.
Well, I think their actions speak for themselves. This is a perfect example. We saw that in California. We saw that with the same-sex marriage. It was on the ballot, and the people voted. The people spoke, and a judge overturned that too. Yep. So what does that say? We saw that during the first when Trump ran against Biden when he won the presidency. The people who vote for the laws in the state, how people are to vote, Secretary of State or a judge, just turned it over. Said it's an emergency. Right. Doesn't matter how you voted. We're going to change how the laws. And that's why people like Stephanopoulos or basically Anderson Cooper would go on and on and on. Where was the fraud? Yes, it was all legal. But you usurped the voice of the people, a judge, or basically the Secretary of State in a state. And if you don't believe me, look at the state of Pennsylvania. Clarence Thomas wrote a dissenting opinion on it in 2020. Look it up. You could find it in the federal, the Heritage Foundation. You could read the dissent, read it for yourself. That's not a democracy. And that is what we're seeing. And frankly, again, people are just fine with it. And why, Joe? Because we're still too comfortable. The heat hasn't been turned up enough. I think California's close, actually. I think California is close because it's a wasteland. It's an absolute wasteland. And that is eventually what we're going to see. We're about to elect a communist in New York. We've destroyed Los Angeles. We've destroyed Chicago. And now we're about to destroy New York. Until, because this is how people operate. They understand one thing: when it becomes uncomfortable for them. You see, people don't care when it's uncomfortable for anyone else but them. And then when it's too uncomfortable, then people all of a sudden wake up. Well, I say we start waking up now and doing something because we're headed in that direction, particularly with our debt. Our debt is the enemy of America. It will sink us eventually, and the train is out of control, full steam ahead.
You know, just to leave you with this, and before you go, everybody, we have a clip for you at the end, a little truth from Richard Nixon and back in the day. Just very quickly, it reminds me, I don't know if I brought it up before on the show or on this podcast. At the end, the final scene of Apocalypse Now, where the character played by Joseph Bottoms, right, Lance, he's like a surfer dude or whatever. And throughout the movie, he's getting high and he's he doesn't even realize he's in Vietnam. You know, he's dropping acid and doing all these things. But there's a great scene after everybody on the boat, all his crew members, they're all dead. They all died one way or another, right? And Martin Sheen's character goes there and he's got to kill Brando's character. After he gets done killing Colonel Kurtz, killing Marlon Brando. So Martin Sheen comes out, and there's a great shot of Joseph Bottoms, and he's been high the whole time, and it's raining. Coppola's a magnificent film director, and it's raining, and you see a look. Joseph Bottoms did a great job. You see the look on his face, kind of like looking up at the rain, and it's kind of waking him up. You know what I mean? It's waking him up, and it's like the look on his face is kind of like, what the hell have I been doing? And then Martin Sheen goes and grabs him, and they both leave, and the movie ends. My point is, we need to be like Lance. We need to stop. We need to stop getting high And the water of truth, that rain of truth that's coming down on us now, because now it's clear, Joe. 20 years ago, it was all conspiracy theory. Now it's all out there. They're telling you what they're going to do. Yuval Harari and the WEF, and they're all telling you what they think of you. They
Dude, New
think
York
you're
is going to have
nothing.
government-run food stores, Joe.
Right?
Who would have guessed that in America? Right. And he's going to win.
And he's going to win. And they're telling you what they're going to do. And until we open our eyes and start to realize, all right, people say, well, I go out and vote. We got to do more. You know who? I'm going to leave you with this. You know who's doing a great job? Is that Scott Pressler. He's a guy who actually is out there on the ground, boots on the ground, registering Republicans. Do you know that there's more registered Republicans in Bucks County, Pennsylvania right now than ever? He flipped it. There's more Republicans than Democrats. That's the type of thing that you have to do. You're going to commit fraud. I'm going to go sign up more voters. And I'm going to have so many voters voting against you that you won't be able to commit fraud. See, we'll leave it there because there's another conversation. That's the type of action we got to take. And dare I say to everybody out there at the front line with Joe and Joe, more than anything else, let's pray that God spares us this chastisement. Because if you don't see it coming, if you don't see the handwriting is on the wall, it's right there, right in front of your face, and God steps in, I wouldn't want to be on the bad side of that visit, okay? But leaving the Almighty aside for a second, there still are things we could do, like you said, Joe. We could still be Lance. We could still come out of our stupor, okay, and wake the hell up. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. Another great conversation. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Antonello. Thank you all out there for joining us, as you always do. Help us out when the show's over. Hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit a share wherever you're watching this. I'm going to leave you with a clip from Richard Nixon. And until next week, when we see you again, 9 o'clock Eastern time. God bless you.
I realize that there were some in the media and some in the Congress who felt that for a variety of reasons, because they had disagreed with me in Vietnam, because they thought I was too strong in terms of what I was going to do in the second term, that they felt that it was very important to get me out of there. Let me make it clear as to why they were concerned. I had not held any punches back. I made it clear after the election that with the war out of the way, having won by 62%, I had a mandate. I was going to reorganize the government. I was going to cut down on the bureaucrats. I was going to return more power to the states and the people. I was going to shape up the place. They knew that. The media knew it. The bureaucracy knew it. The elitists knew it. The establishment knew it. They didn't like it.